Okay, so I'm here tonight to tell you my pure romance story, and specifically the story about breaking my board at World Conference. I had been a consultant with Pure Romance for almost 3 years. I finally got to National Training World Conference, and it's a tradition for first timers at their first national training to go through a board breaking ceremony. They bring in a speaker named Brian Biro, who is absolutely amazing. He's a motivational speaker and he gives you this speech. And of course, it's crazy and zany the way motivational speakers are, but he asks two really important questions. The first question he asks is, what is that barrier? What is that thing holding you back that's in your way? And the second question is, what is it on the other side that is important enough to you to break through that barrier? I always figured that my barrier was a fear of failure. I had sort of an imperfect life. My mother was a lifelong sufferer of schizophrenia. I saw her maybe a couple times a year growing up. My parents were separated and then divorced. In fact, until last year, I had only one picture of her. My father, on the other hand, he did the best he could, but he was sort of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Gave me lots of opportunities and really expected me to excel. But on the flip side, he could be very physically, emotionally, verbally abusive in his world. And he said this very explicitly. When you fail, it's because you just didn't try hard enough. And, going into adulthood, I finally understood and encountered these experiences where no matter how hard you try, you incur failure, and there's nothing that you did wrong. Failure is a part of life. When I was standing there listening to Brian talk, I realized that my fear really wasn't a fear of failure. It was the shame that comes with failure. Shame is what holds all of us back when it comes to the core of it, and that's exactly what we're in Pure Romance for. We want to help women no longer be ashamed about sex. We want them to be excited and open and empowered in their sexuality. And, if you're in this business, there's a lot of times when you're afraid to tell people that what you do. And there are times when you think, if I fail, I should just give up. And I realized that shame had directed so many of the choices in my life. And of course, Brian does this other thing when he talks about what it is that you want on the other side. He holds up a picture of his family, his wife, his daughters, and I immediately turned and thought about my two boys. I got into Pure Romance to pay off debt because my hope was that they could go to college debt free. But I realized in that moment, and this was so earth shattering, that even if I failed to do that, if I lived a shameless life, if I was that example of a life without shame, I would have given them something that was worth a lot more. And after that, I was just a mess. I cried the whole time. I got up there to break my board and I was crying. The first time I thought, I'm going to be okay. I've got it. He showed me how. I can totally do this. And I pulled back my hand. I hit the board and it didn't break. I thought, oh my gosh, it didn't break. It's okay. I'm all right. I can do this. And I pulled back my hand again and I hit the board and it didn't break. And, that was sort of very indicative of my life. Things have not been easy for me. I have faced failure. But the question really is, am I going to let the shame of the failure keep me down, or am I going to keep going? And so I remember looking at Melissa, and she kept coming to me with the board, and I kept backing up. I was afraid, am I going to break this board? But everybody was cheering me on. I wish you could be there and hear the amazing support in that room. So I got there, and I looked at her, and I stood there, and there was something magical that happens in that moment. It was like there was no board, there was no barriers, there was no shame. I was already on the other side of that board. I couldn't believe it. The board was broken. Kind of a funny postscript after that. There's this revolving door on the Millennium Hotel, and you have to go through it to get to the Duke Energy Center where this board breaking ceremony was. I hate revolving doors. I always go in the side door so I don't have to go through the revolving door. And I realized when I got out of that ceremony and I was walking on the way back, I saw that door again, and I realized the reason why I don't like revolving doors is because I'm afraid that I'm going to get caught in them and look like an idiot. And I stood there and I thought to myself, never again am I going to let shame be the thing that dictates how I live my life. And I walked through that door, and I did it several more times before we left that week. You know, this opportunity with your romance is not just about making money, and it's not just about the fun of the parties, which are fantastic. It's about learning really what you are capable of. And if you haven't given the opportunity a chance, and if you have and you haven't gone to a world conference, national training, go, because your whole life is waiting for you on the other side. And there are people there that love you, and they're going to benefit so much.